A very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the viewers. Thank you for joining us for the very first session of Nutrition Nectar. I have two experts with me, Dr. Dharani Krishnan and Mrs. Niti Jaipuria today. Most of the registrants are from India, but we do have a few from overseas as well. We have a mixed viewership, dietitians, students, academicians, doctors, and some others from other walks of life. A flow of program will be like this: an interactive session to begin with Dharani, followed by a meal showcase by Niti, and finally answering viewers' questions. Please type your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. Thank you very much. So this is just a disclaimer for all of you to read. I'm going to introduce Dr. Dharani Krishnan now. Dharani has done her PhD and she is a registered dietitian by qualification. She's a consultant dietitian at Chennai. She's a director at DV Living Service Enterprise Limited. She's a secretary of EcoScience Research Foundation working towards the organic movement. She frequently appears on TV and radio on diet topics. Her articles appear in the print media, both English and vernacular. She is the former national president and former chairperson of the Registered Dietitian Board of the Indian Dietetic Association. Her achievements include a digest, diet-related software, and an app called NutriTracks. She has published a book on appetizing wheaty treats. In 2015, she won the Aminu Kumar Bose Award. In 2018, she won the Mayan Awards. In 2020, Dieta and High 9 Honorary Award and Realistic Award by Pakwan and Rajwada. She has researched with the Central Washington University and the University of Southern Queensland. So Dharani, are we ready to start the discussion?
Yes, thank you, Sheila. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful occasion.
Yeah, it's totally my pleasure. Okay, my first question to you. You're a multifaceted professional, having been an academician, an entrepreneur, a diet counselor, a researcher, a software developer, so many other things. What have you enjoyed the most, and what would you want to continue, let's say, for the next 5 to 10 years?
I really love doing the software part, learning every day. And recently I was working on reversal of diabetes with technology. So the most important things I would love to do are my face-to-face consultations, because my patients are my heart. I really love doing it. I like to update my knowledge and keep telling them how well they can do it. And then the second would be a consultant to software. Like, you know that I have done the software digest and I've also had an app, but now I'm taking the second seat of being a consultant to people to understand how they can do better from what I have learned. And the third would be research, which is my passion. So research, because in India, if you see, we need dietitians and research in dietetics, which is very much needed. The clinical dietetics aspects is working, but for preventive nutrition, we need, like we know in this pandemic time, how do we make the immunity of people better? So that is something so close to my heart. So research is the third aspect which I want to continue.
Sounds wonderful, Dharani. So coming to today's topic, what causes weight gain? I know a lot of dietitians are logged in as well, and I'm sure they know the answers to this. But we also have people not from the dietetics field. So for them, I'm sure this answer will benefit. So what, in your opinion, causes weight gain?
So when we come to weight gain, there are multiple factors. One could be genetics, but genetics is such a minuscule number. You could say in 10,000 people, it will hardly be 80 people or something like that. But everybody blames their genes for what their weight is, which is not true. because most of us are eating every hour of the day. It is not anymore every fourth hour, right? So this could be overeating is one of the major issues, and also eating the wrong type of foods, which are calorie dense, is the next problem. And the third is that everybody thinks they are exercising. I'm very happy there are marathon runners, there are more bikers on the road, and we are part of the Marina Beach Walkers Association, which is the second longest beach in the world. So I also feel, a lot more people are exercising. But when you see the research, it says that only 2 out of 100 people are actually exercising, and they should be exercising 45 minutes, 6 days a week, and we're not doing it. So weight gain is a very big bucket. It is food you eat, it is exercise, and the stress that you have. So we'll be looking at it further, but these are the main 3 aspects which we need to look into for weight gain.
And if a person does gain weight, what are the risk factors associated with extra weight?
Oh, that is something which is very, very important to say. Like in my clinic, I can tell you 10-year-olds who should be actually 24 to 25 kilos. But when they walk in, I'm even scared to put them on the scale. They're already 80 kilos, right? So what about adults? I don't put them on the scale. I ask them, what is your weight? Because it's about 120 plus. So here we are in the urban situation where we are extremely heading towards overweight and obesity. So this is a big problem, and we need to tackle it because this is one of the reasons we are the global capital of cardiac disease. And second, we are for diabetes. If you see, initially, there were only few dialysis units, which is one of the major complications of diabetes, which is kidney disease. Today, every small hospital has it. So we know the number of diabetes people who are there with diabetes and the complications they are going through. So it's really sad if we can take a step back, and if we can correct it and reduce our weight gain, we can go a long way forward, because all the NCDs are a problem, the non-communicable diseases, whether it's diabetes, whether it's heart disease, whether it's cancer, hormone-related issues. So young girls have PCOS and boys have various hormone other issues, and prostate could be one of them. So we really need to wake up at this point of time, because this is a big issue, and the problems that you get because of overweight is a big problem. So then we'll move on to the next question as to what exactly happens after overweight. So we'll just take up a few slides on what are the types of obesity that are there, and we will go to it. Yes, Sheila.
Okay, so is there a difference between brown fat and white fat, and what is their connection to body weight? Because nowadays we hear a lot of research around brown fat and how it might be better than having white fat. So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, I just want, just give me a second. Let me share my slide.
Sure.
What happened? Okay. So actually brown fat and white fat, if you see the short forms for that, is brown adipose tissue, which is BAT, and white adipose tissue, which is WAT. So white adipose tissue is when you have excess calories and it actually comes onto your abdomen, and that is the major reason for all these problems that I was talking about, the NCDs. Because for diabetes or cardiac disease, if you have excess abdominal fat, this is going to be a problem. But when we talk about brown fat, it actually helps in expenditure of energy. And this is happening if you see in cold places. There is more brown fat because the body actually wants to conserve, and you need to expend more energy. That is when in our RDA for Indians, when we say a 60 kg male needs this much of calories, because there are so many differences according to activity and so on, some 1,400 upwards it goes. But if I'm staying in the Himalayas, it's quite different from when I stay in Chennai, right? Because the climate environment also changes. So those who are staying in colder places, they get good brown fat, and this helps them conserve because they need more energy to expend even to maintain their own body temperature from there on. And in a hill station, you need to do much more activity. Even for climbing up the hill to just go buy provisions, even if you go in the car, there are many places you have to do a slope. So you need to expend energy. That is why nature is giving that. So brown fat is something for expending energy and it is good. And white adipose tissue is something which is actually creating extra fat, which is because of excess calorie that is happening.
That's great. And I sincerely hope a lot of people have more brown fat than white fat. Okay, there's a general belief that when a diet plan is made for a diabetic or for a person looking for weight loss, it can be followed by everybody who has the same health concern. In your opinion, how do you think this belief came about?
See, the problem is, I can tell you my personal experience, though it is way back. Yeah. I left hospital this thing because the hospital I was working in, they would put 10 or 12 patients and say you have to finish them in 1 hour. Whereas I thought we need to really, find out a lot of things from the patient before we actually hand over a diet chart. What are these things? It is a 24-hour diet ritual, a food frequency, what is the family eating, what is the total amount of oil they are consuming, what is the quantity of vegetable they are eating. So many facts we need to collect before we arrive as to what diet to give to them, right? But if we just give a standard chart to everybody, and today it's available on the internet, it's available on the social media. But is it working for people? No, not really. So, two things need to be done. One, we have to tailor the chart. Like if you take somebody working in the BPO sector, they are working against the circadian rhythm. They are working in the night and they are sleeping in the morning. So, their needs and the way we give a diet chart to them would be very different. And here, this is where I learned that integration works a big way forward. Because if you take somebody 5 feet 4 inches, our ICMR does say this is the calories that we have to give according to their activity, according to their how much heavier they are from their ideal weight. But if you look into the traditional way of looking at things, people classify people according to their prakriti. What is prakriti? Prakriti is vata, pitta, kapha. So the same person, 5 feet 4 inches, would look different. The body fat will be different. The body muscle will be different. The digestion would be different. And the way they move would be different. This is something we really haven't learned in modern science. So we need to integrate both to make a big success, because sometimes the diet chart we give, we hit a block and we're not able to do better after that. So the reason could be we're not looking at the prakriti of the person. And the prakriti, now today we have enough research. Even 2020 we have a latest research, and it says that the prakriti of a person, when you can assess it, it actually aligns with the genetic makeup of the person, because genetics has become a big thing. And you know that nutrigenomics, that is, according to the genetics we can give the food that they need. So it's in a nascent stage, but we need to make it better, which is in every stage, right? So here we have an add-on. So a simple questionnaire, we can assess the prakriti of the person, and that could give us clues as to how we can make our diet better for that particular person. And of course, we can add our modern knowledge of, food allergies and what are the other problems. Is there a genetic issue in the family itself? So we can combine the two, and we are going to be the leaders in nutrition for the world. So I actually, at this point, I want every dietitian to learn this and move forward with this knowledge, because it will help them in their practice in a very big way.
That's excellent, I think, and I completely agree. This is the way to go forward. integrating both nutrition and Ayurvedic science, because I think there are a lot of commonalities between the two. And I think you've kind of explained already the next question, why a single diet plan will not suit everybody. So I don't think we need to take that up again. What, according to you, are the key factors to keep in mind while a person is on a weight loss journey?
Yeah. When a person is on a weight loss journey, we first have to understand how much they are in trouble. First, when I learned child psychology as one of the subjects in nutrition, when we learned, I thought, my God, this is not something we need at all, right? But actually, if you see, psychology plays a very major role. We actually, as dietitians, have physiotherapists and psychiatrists or psychologists who help us in this matter. So, psychology plays a major role when you're tracking your weight. If it's somebody who doesn't have a good esteem of themselves, so that is the first thing you need to cure, because they may be eating too much because of their depression or because of some problem that they are having, and how much ever you keep preaching your diet, it may not work, right? So first you have to make them listen to you, and for that we need to remove that problem. So we need to have integration not only in types of medicine, which is modern and traditional medicine or Ayurveda or whatever we are looking at, but also we need specializations of different people to work together. A dietitian needs to have a psychologist and a physiotherapist. These are the basic needs. Even if you're doing weight loss or preventive nutrition, these are the first basic needs. Then we go on to specializations like sports nutrition or whatever it is, right? So coming back, we need to tell them that they need to do portion control. If somebody is gaining weight because they are eating every hour of the day, we have to train them to take snacks which are less calories and then break the cycle. Because what happens is, if you eat so often, the insulin resistance goes up. And because of that, the problems start. And because of that, the problems of obesity also shoot up. So that's the first thing. Second, we need to teach them what is a balanced meal, which Neeti is going to do for us, where the 5 food groups are very important. So whether it is vegetables, fruits, whether it's the protein foods, dal in a vegetarian kingdom with soy, and whether it is eggs, fish, and chicken, which are the healthy fats in a non-vegetarian kingdom. And then we need the dairy. There, of course, there's a lot of arguments over there, but we'll come to that. And then we have the grains. People think they should eat zero carbs. This won't work, because if you eat zero carbs, immediately you're going to feel hungry in a short while and you're going to eat more. And the most important is protein. If you take Indian population, not even 30% of the protein in the RDA we are eating. And this could be the reason why we are increasing the carbs that we eat. And that could be one of the reasons for weight gain, which could be the problem. So next is vegetables. A 4-member family, they say, oh, we eat a lot of vegetables. We even eat palak or spinach or keera every day. But that's not true, because they buy one measly little bunch, and then they eat, and they get literally 2 tablespoons each. If it's a 4-member family, then they think they're eating lots. That's not true. We need to work with the dietitian to know what is the proportion of vegetable we need and what types of vegetable do we need. Because during the demonetization, one of the research that showed us huge amount of data, because we collected electronic data on what people were buying, and we found the aloo was like Brahman. It was in every bill that was bought, and the quantity was 1 to 2 kilos. But if you look at beans, or if you look at bhindi, or if you look at the watery vegetables, they were half a kilo, which is not enough at all. So for a 4-member family, we need more of beans, more of watery vegetables, more of the good vegetables, as we call the tricolors, that, orange, green, and yellow, and red. And we need to have less of starchy vegetables. That's the way we need to move forward.
Oh, sounds excellent. And thank you so much for the detailed answer, Dharani. So you have again, kind of mentioned the importance of protein in weight loss and not to, be carb heavy. So I'll move on to the next question then. What are the chances of weight regain after a year or 5 years or 10 years? In other words, is it possible to keep the lost weight off permanently? Because a lot of people struggle with weight loss over a period of time.
Yeah. So what happens is people think that once they meet a dietitian, that's it, right? So they want to follow the same diet. There's so many of my patients during this time, sorry, actually sent a diet chart which I have sent maybe 3 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and they say, "Can we follow this now? Because now sitting at home, I'm putting on weight." But so many other factors have changed. When they came, their weight itself would have been different. Now they could have started lower or they are starting higher, right? So losing a few kilos or maintaining the weight or gaining weight depends on multiple factors, right? Like suppose, like I'm very happy to say that when I started way back as a dietitian, people didn't even know who was a dietitian. There were people in my colony who came and said, "Why are you putting up a board? You're not a doctor. Why are you putting up a board?" Right? But today they come and search for us to find out. Couples come before getting married to say, "We want to meet a dietitian." What is the reason? They say, "We want to lose weight, right? We want to look trim." But the mistake they do is they come within 2, 3 days or 1 week or 10 days before the wedding. But they should plan better, right? So, like that, something of the weight that you started, the chart that was given to you was for that particular situation. You might have increased weight, you might have decreased weight, you might have been doing a lot of exercise. Like if you take children, when they come, they actually are dancers or they are putting a lot of time into sports. But the moment 11, 12 standard comes, everything else is dropped. Only studies is there. Then what happens? They put on weight. Then they come back and they say, "Ma'am, we are following the same diet chart." But an adolescent diet is very different from an adult diet. And even in an adult diet, what are your blood picture? What was it 3 years down the line? You never know. Maybe your sugars have gone up. God forbidden, shouldn't. But if it has, then has your cholesterol gone up? Have you gone down in your vitamin D because you've forgotten to see the Surya Bhagwan as often as you can? So many things change, right? You just don't drop a dietitian. Do you take a prescription from a doctor and do you continue to do that? No, you go back for regular reviews. I know of diabetologists, if patients don't come back within 3 months, they just start a new file, just to tell them that it's not just that you keep doing what you want to do. So also is diet, because diet changes according to the person's weight, according to what the person's body fat is, body muscle is, what is the exercise they are doing, what is the stress level they are having, and so many things. So that is why it's not a single diet chart for everybody. It is not even for the same person, because the person has to meet the dietitian to maintain the weight. So next, maybe we look
Excellent.
at, yeah.
I hope people really will follow what. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So what is the next question, Sheila? You actually went off. We couldn't hear you.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry about that. According to you, small frequent meals or 2 to 3 large meals, which works better?
Yeah, it depends on the person, right? Because if the person is used to having, like if today intermittent fasting is coming, you can't give intermittent fasting to everybody. They should not be acidic. There are a lot of things that we need to look in before we prescribe intermittent fasting. So like that, if the person can take meals, only 3 meals and 2 snacks, fantastic. We can give it to them. But somebody feels hungry all the time, then we break up the meals and give it to them in smaller portions and give them snacks so that it's less calories but fills them up, like a salad or something like that. because that will help. So it again is very individualistic. We can't just say, everybody take small meals or somebody take only 3 meals a day. It doesn't work like
Doesn't work. Yeah, one diet doesn't fit everybody, or one
that. Correct.
meal pattern doesn't fit everybody.
Absolutely.
Um, okay, we talk so much about weight loss, weight management all the time. Sometimes there is unexplained or unintended weight loss. Should a person worry about that?
Yeah, definitely. Because if it's just a kilo or two, nothing to worry. Because today, if we say something people have to worry, they take it to huge levels. So we need to make that very clear to non-dietitians, non-doctors who are on this show. Because if it's 1 or 2 kilos, nothing to worry, right? Even in pregnancy, people get so worked up. It's a normal physiological process, so don't worry. If you are eating properly according to what your body says, nothing will be the problem. But yeah, you are 80 kilos or 60 kilos or your correct weight, 60 to 65 kilos. But suddenly, within a short span, you have come down by 5 or 6 kilos or come down to 50 or 55 kilos. Yes, it's better to check whether your body is going through some stress, whether there is an infection, whether there is some other problems. So we need to check if you're suddenly losing weight, you're losing energy, you're feeling tired all the time, then definitely you need to check. Unless you are not eating for some reason. Do you have nausea? Do you have digestion issues? Do you have absorption issues? So that also we can check. So today it's so wonderful that all these things can be tested very simply just by giving small amounts of blood or checking with ultrasound. And so many kinds of techniques are available today. Like I have senior citizens who are 90 plus who are staying at home and they get into issues. So we even have bedside x-rays. We have bedside, all kinds of techniques have come, right? So it's wonderful that in this age and time we can do this. But the problem I find in my patients is people are scared. The moment they lose weight, they think only about the worst. And then they say, no, I don't want to go. Because then, that will tell me I have A problem or B problem or C problem, and I don't want to face it. So this should not be the case. If you have lost sudden weight loss, you should check it out and you can sort it out. There's no problem at all. Anything can be sorted out.
Great. There are several myths surrounding weight loss or weight management. Uh, what, according to you, are the top common myths about weight loss?
Yeah. Weight loss, I can tell you from my practice, most of my patient thinks that if you take milk, you'll put on weight. Okay? Milk is, if you take toned milk, 100 ml is only 67 calories. But the same people will not stop having their vegetable pulao or their chicken or mutton biryani because they think that is not heavy at all. That is not high calories. So here's the problem. Milk has protein, milk has calcium, and 67 calories, there's not a problem. The problem is when you make it. It's mango season now. You know that people will make mango milkshake and have, and then they would put extra sugar into it. Mango itself is sweet. Why would you need extra sugar? So they make it calorie dense. A 200 ml milkshake will be zillions of calories. It can go up to even 200 to 250 calories depending on the amount of sugar, the type of milk. Some of people put cream into it and so on and so forth. So we need to be careful. So the mistake is not with the milk. The mistake is with how we take it. So this is a big myth that people think that milk is bad, curd is bad, so milk and curd should not be taken. But on the same note, they will be eating a lot of cakes, they will be eating a lot of pastries, and they don't understand that that has higher calories and lesser nutrients than milk. That's the first thing. Second is they always say that they think that if they eat carbs, then they're going to put on weight. As I told you earlier, carbs, if you completely eliminate it from a meal, definitely you're going to snack. Like I know a lot of my patients, because they're hurrying in the morning, what they do is they skip the breakfast. This is the wrong thing to do, because research shows that if you don't have breakfast, your cognitive power goes down. Whether you're a school kid, whether you're an adult, whether you're a working person, you may have all the skill sets. You must have the best intelligence, the best workspace. But missing breakfast, you are not going to be able to do your work as the potential that you have, right? So the myth is that zero carbs is what I should eat. No. The second is they go and take all these zero sugar products and they believe, though they are not diabetic, but they think that all the zero sugar products are very good for them. Let's just take a chocolate. Suppose it says sugar-free chocolate. Cocoa itself has a lot of fat, right? And to make chocolate, we need to add a lot of butter because that's the way chocolate is made. And then sugar is added. Except sugar, all the others are there. So the calorie is still high. So one cannot think that any sugar-free is good for them. And actually, if they're not diabetic, why would they take sugar-free at all? So this is another very big myth that anything that says sugar-free, they can finish a packet full of it. That should not be the case. I think we should train people to read the labels of products, to see products and so on. In fact, there was a beautiful experiment we did way back in college, I would say, where we started a kheer, a plain semia kheer, okay, 150 ml. We started with half a teaspoon sugar and went to 8 teaspoons of sugar with the same panel on different days, okay. People didn't realize till it was 6 teaspoons that the sugar was high. So that is what is happening. So they think that sugar won't put on weight. The other myth is sugar is not a problem. Well, there's no problem in sugar. Now, please, sugar is, suppose you buy a chips also, it has sugar today. You buy a kurmura or a mixture, even that has sugar today. So, you saying that sugar doesn't put on weight is a big myth. People think that only fried stuff. Now, fried stuff is okay. Yes, it does put on weight. What about the pastries, the 3-layered pastries? It has cake, then it has 1 layer of cream or chocolate or whatever, then again cake, then again cream or chocolate, then there's another layer, and then on the top, there's fresh cream. God forbid, right? People don't realize cream, sugar, all this can add on to the weight. So there are lots of myths, and they feel that vegetables and fruits really don't fill them up and they cannot eat enough of it. This is the next problem. I've given you a few myths. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to add.
Okay. Just last few questions for these philosophers.
Sheila, we really can't hear you. Just 1 minute. In case you don't come, I will just carry on with the session. Just a second. Yeah. So now we'll talk about what are the different things we need to do. Just a second.
Yeah.
So you're back, okay?
I'm back. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
So we did the first one, right? No time to cook?
No, we didn't do that. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Sheila. I was just pulling out the questions. I'm sorry.
All
Yeah.
right, no problem. So
Yeah.
one-line solutions to weight loss obstacles. The first one, no time to cook.
Yeah, no time to cook. See, cooking is very easy. Neeti is going to tell you tons of ideas just now, right? Today we get millet poha, right? You get bajra poha, you get, thenai poha, foxtail millet poha. You have poha of different kinds, right? Red rice poha. So this is something you can fix for breakfast. You can make one day could be bajra, one day could be foxtail millet or thenai, and one day could be the red rice poha. You can make it salty one day, you can make it with coconut one day, you can make it with pepper one day. So it's not difficult at all. If you really plan you can fix your meal in 20 minutes. It's really good. And you have a vegetable ready, you have a dal, and you have your grain ready. So if people say they don't know how to cook, they have to take lessons. And they have to take lessons from the right, because in the internet it shows lot of oil being added for everything. That should not be there.
Okay. So one line answer. I'm hungry all the time.
Hungry all the time, have snacks like badam, have snacks like cucumber, and you'll be fine.
All right. One line answer again. Healthy food is expensive.
Healthy food is expensive if you go for brands. Make the healthy foods at home, it'll be very cheap.
Okay, wonderful. I get easily tempted by desserts.
Make desserts at home. Make a kheer with less sugar or no sugar, because milk is sweet, and so also whatever grain you're adding. So make things like that.
Okay, the last one. Diet plans are boring. What do you say to that when people complain saying that diet plans are very boring?
Go to the right dietitian. They will be able to help you, because if you say diet plans are boring, that means whoever you're going to is not really creative. Diet is one of the things which is a big passion, and Neeti is going to show you where diet plans, you go to the right people, they will give you zillions of options. Like if I could say 10 years ago, sorry Sheila, I'm taking one more minute. 10 years ago, broccoli was not on our plate, isn't it? It was not available like this. Today I go to the market, there's a cart full of broccoli available. So we can make it creative. You know, even our traditional vegetables can be made very, very tasty and very creative. So please go to the right people, dietitians, because there's a lot of quackery around. Please don't go to them. Make sure that your dietitian is educated in dietetics. In fact, all three on this panel are graduates of home science. So this is the kind of panel you should go.
Okay, that's really sounds very encouraging, and thank you so much. And we are getting a lot of emojis right now, Dharani. People are so happy with this answer, especially when you said go to the right dietitian. There's a lot of thumbs up and smileys and hearts. Okay, the audience loves you.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much for
much.
that lovely answer. And I think thank you once again, Dharani. That was a perfect ending to this discussion with you on, is a standard diet suitable for all Weight Watchers? So thank you for being with us. Please do stay on because Niti will, showcase some good dishes, healthy dishes to the audience and simple ones. So let me introduce Niti Jaipuria to all of you. Mrs. Niti Jaipuria is a creative chef and partner at Gumdrops in Bangalore. She's an amazing cook, treating her family and friends to awesome dishes all the time. She decided to turn her passion into entrepreneurship. Now she caters for parties and other occasions. Her snacks, desserts, mouth fresheners, digestives are freshly made at home from scratch and are really appreciated by everybody who buys it from her. So over to you, Niti.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for giving me this platform today to showcase my passion, I would say. I'm not formally trained, but been cooking since a very young age and probably getting better and better. And with a line like you, where you pepped me up so much, definitely going to strive and do better things. Good evening to all friends who are listening to the show. Uh, I'm here with a small meal which can be made interesting, like Dharni told us. It's nothing just about how interesting you make a meal. I have a few things right in front of me. It's a total meal with a salad and a roti, a dal, and a vegetable. And to end it off on a sweet note, I have a mango yogurt well. I'll start with a slideshow and I'll show you what I have. So this is the meal plan that I'm presenting today. It's a garden fresh tricolored salad, just like what Dharni said. Tricolors in a salad, which makes it nice, crunchy, and tasty. Bengali style chana dal, crunchy beetroot masala, which is made in a South Indian Dakshin style, masala roti, a pudina raita, and to finish it off with the Alfonso Froyo, which is a mango yogurt. So first we go with the tricolor salad. In this, we have taken cucumber, cherry tomatoes. If you do not have cherry tomatoes, you can use the normal tomatoes, just de-seed them. Bell peppers with colors of your choice, whatever is available. To give it little crunch, we have some sesame seeds toasted, which we sprinkle on top. A dash of olive oil, a small teaspoon of honey to add taste to it, lemon juice, and of course salt and pepper. Now this is the way we prepare. It's very easy. Just dice all the vegetables, which is cucumber, bell peppers, and cut the cherry tomatoes into half and set them aside. Toast the sesame seeds without any oil. Toss them all. Add little honey and lime juice, salt and pepper, and it's ready to serve. I'm just showing you the way it is prepared. So this is it. It has the colors, it has the crunch, and it has taste as well. I hope it's clear to you all, friends.
Yes, it's very clear and it looks very colorful and quite
Yes,
tempting.
just like what Bharani said, it has a tricolor, more than tricolor, and I hope our folks like it. Now we go to the second uh, Bengali called chana dal. It is just plain chana dal which is soaked for an hour. And in this earthy seasoning, we take a small piece of cinnamon stick, 2 3 cloves, a small piece of bay leaf. To add a little sweetness and taste to this, we add a small dash of jaggery powder. All this is seasoned in just about a teaspoon of oil. And if you like your dal a little spicy, you can add green chili and ginger paste. And in the seasoning, we add some mustard seed, a pinch of turmeric, and of course salt to taste, and asafoetida powder. This is the way you do it. You soak the dal for an hour. This you take in a pressure cooker. 1 cup of dal needs about 1.5 cups of water. Add turmeric and salt to it and cook on a high flame for about 2 whistles. Turn off the gas. Allow the steam to let off. Make sure the dal is not overcooked. I'll show it to you later that the dal should be grainy. It should not be fully squashed. Uh, then once it is boiled, to season it, take oil in a pan, just about a teaspoon, add asafoetida powder, add your mustard seeds, add bay leaf, cinnamon stick, and cloves. We in India are blessed with by Mother Nature with the best of Indian spices. These spices add to the flavor and to the taste of our food. This is why a plain chana dal, which is boiled, can become. Now, going forward, after you put the mustard seeds and the chili ginger paste, add a little bit of red chili powder, saute this, and then you add your cooked dal. Simmer this on low flame for about 5 to 8 minutes. In the end, you add jaggery powder and a little bit of coriander leaves. This all in all would take about 20 minutes. That's about it. Now I will show you on screen how the chana dal looks. This is the way the chana dal looks. I hope you can see the grain. The chana dal grain is intact. It's not very mushy. I hope you're able to make out what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how this chana dal is. It's full of nutrition and the added spices, the whole spices give it a lot of flavor and it has a lot of therapeutic use as well. Going on next, we come to our beetroot, uh, beetroot masala, which is made in Dakshin style. Here the ingredients are a large beetroot, 2 teaspoons of roasted peanut, grated coconut, Again, a small teaspoon of, I encourage using groundnut oil. And to temper it, we take half a teaspoon of mustard seed, a few curry leaves, and salt to taste. The method is cut the beetroot into small pieces, put it in the pressure cooker with some water. Uh, Cook it for 2 3 whistles on high flame until the beetroot is soft. Make sure the beetroot is not overcooked. If there is any excess water, drain it and keep it aside. Do not throw away because it has a lot of nutrients. Then, going further, you heat oil in a pan, add the mustard seeds and the curry leaves, and then add this boiled peanut and cook it on a low flame and make sure that all the water, that is, if there is water content still retained in the beetroot, it gets evaporated. Keep stirring the beetroot constantly. Finally, add salt, a dash of coconut, a teaspoon of grated coconut, and cook it for another 2 3 minutes. Take it out in a bowl and then add roasted peanuts. This will give it a nice crunch. This is best eaten with rotis and, as mentioned, puris, which can you have, which can binge on your cheat day. This is, if Dharani permits us. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is the, I hope you all can see. Yeah, you can.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the peanuts is there for the crunch, the coconut and the beetroot. Okay, so one thing I would like to bring to your notice, I have retained this beetroot water, which I boiled the beetroot in. Of this, you can put it to two use. Either you squeeze some lemon juice in it and add pepper and have it as a health drink. Otherwise, you use the same water and use it to make a dough, like which I have done over here, and made it into a roti. Instead of using water, I have used
Wow,
this
Fantastic.
water, which is
amazing.
nutritious. So never throw away all the whatever water you have. You can either use it in a form of a soup. You can make a broth out of it. You can put it to various use. So that's it. This is the one with the beetroot. Going forward, I'll show you the pudina raita. Oh, the masala roti first. I have that slide ready. So here I'll take a cup of whole wheat flour. In that, bottle gourd, which most of the children will say what to. This is some, we can camouflage this by grating bottle gourd and mixing it in this atta. You can also grate carrot. The vegetables you can use to your choice, whichever is freely available in your kitchen. There is no hard and fast rule in this. Yeah, and to add flavor, you can add a lot of coriander. You can add chopped onions. You can add finely chopped chili or ginger if you like, and of course salt to taste. Now you mix all this either with this beetroot water or any other water which you have got from boiling some vegetables. Or if you don't have any of these, use plain water, make it into dough, and roll out chapatis and make it on your cup. So this is the roti I am showing you. One I have made, which I showed you earlier with the beetroot water. This is normal with the plain water which I've used, and it has all the nutrients. It has the taste, and I'm sure, being a weight, if you have to look after your weight, these rotis are more interesting than having a plain chapati. I hope you folks are following, and I'm clear
Yes,
enough.
yes,
Of
yes, sir.
course.
Very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go in for a simple pudina raita, which is most refreshing. I don't think pudina or mint needs any introduction. Here we use 1 cup of homemade curd. You cut the mint leaves very finely and add salt to the yogurt, to the curd. Make sure you, when you are cutting the mint leaves, just take a mortar and pestle and just release the maximum flavor. Do not make it into a fine paste like a chutney. Add it to the curd and you will get a lot of flavor of the mint, which is very refreshing. If you have a sweet tooth, you can add a dash of jaggery or sugar, which I don't think you should be, to make it a little more tastier. And here is the fresh mint leaves curd raita. Now next we go on to our dessert. This is the most interesting part of your meal plan, friends. Here I have taken a cup of hung curds. This we take homemade curds, which we put on a sieve or a muslin cloth or a cheesecloth and hang it for some time to let all the whey trickle down, which you can collect in a small vessel. And I will tell you the use of that a little later. The above that remains is the thick yogurt. Here, then you take a pulp of ripe mango, 2-3 drops of vanilla essence to remove the taste of curd, so that it tastes like a real good dessert, and just 2-3 leaves of whole mint to garnish it. The mango pulp and the yogurt, give it a light whisk, add it together and give it a light whisk, add the vanilla essence and chill it in the refrigerator for almost 2 hours before serving, because it tastes best when served cold. You can also another point, if you do not have curds at home, you can buy the commercial yogurt that is available in the market. And here is your dessert. Here you go. So that's the best part of your meal plan. Here also one more thing I would like to show you. This is how a thick hung curd is. Thick, nice and thick. If you do not use hung curds, then your yogurt will be very runny like this, which is not so good, or not doesn't give you a dessert feel. So I don't think you will be very happy ending your meal on that note. So make sure you have good thick hung curds, to which you can add your yogurt, your mango pulp. And here again, friends, I'm showing you the whey which was collected while I was making these hung curds. You can use, again, put this to your lot of use. You can again add this to the dough if you're making, or if you're making paneer at home, that is cottage cheese. If you pour this into your milk, you will not need to use vinegar or the juice of it. This itself will get you cottage cheese, which is very healthy and which will give you a good amount of paneer at home. I think I've come to I've covered the entire meal plan. Dharani, I need marks from you. How good is it?
Awesome, Neeti.
Thank you so
You
much.
get AAA. Okay, outstanding. Right? The colors are so beautiful. Each color gives a different nutrient. The mint gives you vitamin C, vitamin A, because it's fresh. You haven't cooked it. And the hung curd is so beautiful because if it is not mango and we use strawberry, it can be eaten even by diabetics because it's higher in protein. It's like a Greek yogurt. Hung curd is like that. And the whey, as you said, can be used for paneer. So actually the meal is very wholesome, very colorful, and very easy to make also. And all the masala that goes into the masala roti today in this pandemic situation is actually providing you immunity. The turmeric, the clove, every one of them. And cinnamon also for diabetes. It helps in reducing sugar. So wonderful, Neeti, and congratulations on your balanced meal.
Very well done, Neeti. It is so tempting. I really wish I could reach out on the screen and then, eat a couple of your dishes. But well, maybe sometime in future we will be able to do that too. Okay. We have lots and lots and lots of questions, but let's see how many we can manage. Okay, somebody is asking about brown fat. Tarini, this question is to you. If a person stayed in Chennai, probably a person from Chennai who's asking, for 20 years and moved to a colder place, will they get more brown fat?
Not necessarily, but it all depends on the body And even in the colder places today, people are using heaters, right? So it's very different. But I mean, you have to see it for yourself. So there's no rule or anything like that that you get more brown fat if you go from a hotter place to a colder place. It's just that the exposure of the body to the cold helps in creating more of brown fat.
Okay. The second question is holistic health is the best way to manage diseases, yet aren't certain foods contradictory when it comes to food science and Ayurveda? So, how do we address that?
See, that is why you need to take a course in integrated dietetics. We are working on it. Very soon, a course will come out and we'll inform all the people who participated in the show, because there are a lot of likeness. Only very little there are differences. Like, for example, immediately people will say curd should not be taken at night. That's what Ayurveda says, right? But you can have it in the afternoon. And hung curd is something which is welcomed by them. So, there are a lot, we think in our mind that modern dietetics and Ayurveda is very different. In fact, I am also from the same school of thought, but now I have learned that there are a lot of places where we can integrate.
Okay, that's wonderful. The next question, Dharani, again to you, is your view on supplements for weight loss, and do you recommend keto diets? I'm combining two questions.
Yeah. Coming to supplements, you have to be very careful what type of supplements. Take a professional help and then you can do it. But that is only in people who really don't budge, right? Then, because if you ask different types of dietitians, somebody would use supplements straight away. Somebody like me would try not to use supplements, try on, tweaking their diet, and then only if it's absolutely necessary, we'll go to that. Again, it's a point of view. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Coming
Yeah.
to keto diet, you have to be very careful. First, you have to check their kidney function before you start. Though a lot of people are saying extra protein will not do anything, but I have had even young children who suddenly, by the advice of trainers, because they are taking weights, they move from about 30 grams of protein to 100 grams in a day. And I have had two clients who have had kidney shutdown and had to be dialyzed, right? So we have to be careful about their age, about their exercise and what they're doing, and then move to keto diet. I'm not saying keto diet is wrong. All I'm trying to say is we need to know the type of people. If somebody cannot digest that amount of fat and protein, then that's not a great idea for them. Then you can do partial keto for them. So there are many things like that. So you can't just say a one-line statement, okay, please use keto for weight loss. There may be weight loss, but we don't want other complications coming.
Exactly. Neeti, there is a compliment that has come to you. Excellent dishes and excellent presentation. Thank you, Neeti ma'am. All right. Dharani, the question is to you. What is the diet for PCOS girls?
Diet is basically first do weight loss, and today for PCOS straight away metformin is given. So it's typically a diabetic diet with a lot of weight loss in mind. That's how we have to do. And just remember the my plate, where half the plate is fruits and vegetables. If you don't want to mix fruit and vegetables, give them 2 cups of vegetable, give them 3/4 cup of grain, and give them 1 full cup of protein. Because when it comes to dal, people are really not taking that much. So proportions are very important and it will work well.
Okay, there's a technical question here, Dharani, again. When we're calculating protein for weight loss, should we calculate according to IBW, ideal body weight, or actual weight?
We have to do IBW only. Actual weight, we have to take in cognizance if it's above than 20%, but otherwise IBW, because you really can't, if somebody is 120 kilos, straight away give them 120 grams of protein. That doesn't work because they may be taking only 40 or 50. So we have to work with IBW.
Okay, there's a question here. Please enlighten us on the effect of monosodium in our lifestyle. Probably monosodium glutamate. The person might have missed out that. So I'm assuming it's monosodium glutamate. So can you? So before Dharani, before you answer that question, Neeti, do you use MSG in any of your cooking?
No, not
You don't. Not at all.
no.
Okay.
Absolutely no, it doesn't enter our house at all.
All right. Happy to know that. So, Dharani, what's your opinion about MSG?
See, MSG, the actual role of MSG is first, it's a glutamate, and glutamic acid even exists in breast milk. So it really can't harm you. Okay, nothing to worry. It is there in many of the high protein products because glutamic acid is an amino acid, right? As monosodium glutamate, it's really not going to harm you. There's lot of issues that have come up. I've read a lot on this matter. So basically, monosodium glutamate, how we have to use it is in India, we use a lot of salt. When we actually do sodium calculations in our diet, because we use milk products and we add salt to everything, there are people who add salt to rice also when they cook. So when we need only 5 grams of sodium, we are actually reaching 10 to 12 grams in a day. So this is really bad. So because we are hypertensive at a very young age, there is cardiac issues, and living in closed environment, we are not sweating, so the sodium doesn't go away. But we want to eat like our grandparents and eat all the fried stuff and battal vadam as I call it, which is all the salted stuff, right? Which we actually don't need. So unless you're going to exercise and lose that, sweat it out. So where if you want, there's no necessity to use monosodium glutamate, but if you want, it's a taste enhancer with sodium in it. And the advantage is the sodium taste will actually reduce the amount of salt that you add. But that's not happening in India. If you eat out, they're adding MSG also, that is monosodium glutamate, and they're adding salt also. So it's not working at all. But the idea is to reduce the salt and add MSG, which adds a different flavor, a meaty flavor, and then you take it. That's the idea. But how many people are doing it is a big question. But there's no, that MSG is very bad for health is not the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dharani, because I think that is a myth where many people believe that MSG shouldn't be touched and, we shouldn't eat it at all. But I think it's okay to eat it once in a while, and especially in limited quantities.
Right.
Okay, the next question is, nowadays there's a lot of abdominal obesity, and even when a person is thin, it kind of stands out. So how does one manage abdominal obesity?
Basically, exercises for the abdomen is very, very important. And if you check their total diet, they may be taking the wrong fats also, and a lot of junk food also. So these could be the reasons. And people, when you take junk food, the cheese may not be the real cheese at all. There are so many avatars of cheese, and it could be the wrong fat inside. So please be careful, and that is what leads to abdomen. One is over calories and the wrong fat calories. These could be the reasons because it's calorie dense, and you need to exercise. Today, nobody exercises, and not right exercise. So we need to do stretches, we need to do whatever we need, crunches, sit-ups, all that, and aerobic also.
Okay, great. The next one is great talk, Dharani, but she would like to know your experience with patients hitting a plateau after some weight loss.
Wonderful. Let me just see if my slides are working now. I've actually prepared a very nice slide. Unfortunately, I could not share it. I'm sorry, it's not working. Okay. So basically, plateau. I have a cartoon there where it says walk, 6 hours a day for 9 days a week, right? They just calculate that this many calories you lose and, 9 days a week. Can you believe this? So this is the kind of thing that comes to plateauing. I'm sorry to say, there are certain people who are not dietitians, who are handling patients. They give them particular products. Could be soy, could be other things. See, when you change your diet very drastically, automatically there will be changes in your body weight. But is it sustainable? Can you do it for a long time? No. So then the same person tells them, oh, you've plateaued in your weight, so go away. It's so depressing, right? Somebody's changed their diet, they've done all this, and then suddenly they say, sorry, I can't help you. So these are the kind of people I'm saying you shouldn't go to. You should go to the right dietitians first. Second, plateauing. How do we help? We have to work with the patient. For any weight loss in my clinic, I tell them every 15 days they have to come. Only then we can help them. When they reach that point that, they're bored of the diet that you've given them, you have to make the changes. They may have a marriage coming in the family, but people give that as an excuse and overeat for 6 months. Whereas marriage is just one day, right? So these are the various things that we need to handhold them and work them. So plateauing is something which is multifaceted. It could be a change in the family. It could be that, they're traveling. That could be the problem. Or exercise is not happening for various, if you're staying in Assam or something where, the rain is so high. So you need to change the type of exercise to do it inside home, which people don't do. They think rainy day means very good, exercise not there. That's not the way you have to look at things. Plus diet also. When you're not doing that much exercise, you need to reduce your portion control. So that is why a professional's role is very, very important.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that again. Next question to you, Dharani, again is, do high protein vegetarian diets help in weight loss?
See, vegetarian is a very, very, common word to use. As a dietitian, if you're asking, it's a lot of vegetables and fruits which are lacking. If you ask people what fruits you're eating, either one set will say kiwi, avocado, like that. Or another set will say banana, 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 right? So you need to have the seasonal vegetable. Now is watermelon season and it's low calories. So if you can have larger quantities, automatically your calories will, the total calorie density will come down in your diet, but you will be full. So that is important. So vegetarian is not wrong, is awesome if you can follow it correctly. Doesn't mean there are certain people who call it vegetarian and add a lot of ghee or oil into their food. That doesn't work, right? So, lot of vegetables and fruit. I want to make that very clear in a vegetarian diet because it's not happening today. Even vegetarians are not taking the amount of vegetables they used to take before. And the quantity of dal, protein, the more protein you take in the meal, automatically you won't feel hungry again next time. So these are the kind of things we need to.
Okay, great. What's your opinion on cutting down on dairy products and gluten for a person who is suffering from PCOS?
Today, if you go to the internet, for everything they say gluten, dairy, no. Right? We are a country who've been having milk since the Vedic period. Okay, that's one of the oldest periods, right? And nothing has happened. I have examples of senior citizens because my mother-in-law lived 96, all her friends 99, 98, and so on. They all lived on dairy. They didn't have cancer. They didn't have any problems. PCOS is a problem because of lack of exercise and eating wrong foods. That's the root cause. Okay, there may be a genetic issue. Unless you have an issue with gluten, do drop it. You have an issue with dairy, drop it. But not everybody dropping everything. This doesn't make sense. If you have, you do your allergy test. If something really worries you, then definitely do your allergy test and then you can drop it. But a blanket statement to say all PCOS people should not have dairy, should not have wheat is a big problem. If you're vegetarian and you're dropping dairy, you may not have high biological value protein coming in and good calcium coming in. Then you have to take supplements, the right bioavailable calcium supplements, right? So you need to work with the person and find out. Usually what happens is PCOS children, at least the ones I have seen more often, I can say 8 out of 10 of them are eating out very often. And this is the problem. The moment you eat out even idli, which is supposed to be the world's best food, when you make it at home, it's 30 calories. When you eat it out, it's 80 calories. And it's a sin to eat idli without vada, isn't it? But vada is not made at home every day. So automatically your density goes up. So this is very important. And a mummy at home makes a small vada. Outside you get bigger than my palm size. And you eat one. In India, we never share. There's no quarter or half. Immediately we eat the whole thing. Then we say, oh, why am I putting on weight, right? I eat only idli. Nobody's thinking about the vada. Not that vada is bad. It has urad dal, but you can't have it every day.
Yeah, great. How can we reduce post-pregnancy weight gain? Progesterone pills are taken during gestation and I will increase my weight.
See, there are a lot of issues with pregnancy today. One is because people are postponing it and having it at a later age. So it becomes a difficult pregnancy because of the age itself, right? So every child has become a precious child, right? So the rules of what I remember when I was pregnant, my grandmother will say, walk, sweep the house. We can't say these things today because we're scared. What is the activity of the mother? Can we say these things? So basically, first, pregnancy is not a disease. It's a normal physiological process. Okay. If you have it at the right age, and if you're not taking too many pills and all that, nothing to worry. The problem is right from the 6th month till you are lactating with the child, maybe up to 2 years these days. So 2.5 years you've eaten differently because you're lactating, and you were from 6 months because you need it. After that, you have to reduce your food. Nobody does that. So they blame the child and pregnancy and they say, after first child, I put on 10 kilos. After second child, I put on 20 kilos. But actually, if you see the previous generation, they would have had 6 children and they'll be thinner than what they were before because they do that amount of exercise and they reduce their food. Today, we're not doing that. We continue to eat because there's no elders to tell us, and we don't want to reduce also, and we eat from outside. So, even if you're using pills, you can come back to the right weight if you follow the right diet and exercise.
Okay, that's a great explanation. There are so many questions on intermittent fasting. You did briefly touch upon that during, the discussion, but would you like to repeat a little bit about intermittent fasting because there are a lot of questions on the same point.
Absolutely. Intermittent fasting, you're supposed to eat for 8 hours and fast for 16 hours. That is how it is. So, suppose I get up at 8 a.m., okay, and if I eat something at 8 a.m., my next meal stops 8 hours from then, okay. So, 8 hours from then is 4 p.m. So, I fast from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. again, right? First, we need to have the mindset. Second, you should not be hyperacidic because already if you have an acidity and you're taking a lot of medicines and doing this is not a great idea. If you are a diabetic, you can do it only under professional guidance. And if you are a diabetic on insulin, you need double guidance. In India, do your doctors react to you every second you talk to them? I don't know. How many of you have that? Because it will go into severe hypos if suddenly you're going on fasting for 16 hours. So, unless you have a doctor, dietitian on 24-hour call, then only you can do it. Otherwise, it is not possible because you will suddenly hit such low hypos, which can be very dangerous for you, right? But for weight loss, it works wonders. But the problem I see is people follow it very strictly because they want that weight off. Then what they add? First, they'll add the dairy. In intermittent fasting, they'll say stop dairy, stop this, have a lot of vegetables, only 26 carbs a day or 30 carbs per day. So many different types are there. I'm just giving you a few examples, which means that between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. doesn't mean every hour you eat. No, you have 2 large meals and 1 snack. That's all. Right? So if you have your breakfast at 8, you will have your lunch say by 12:31 and 3 o'clock you will have a slight snack. That's all you're allowed, right? So you have to be very careful what you eat. Then people around will say, oh, so you're fasting. Here's the puri. Oh, you're fasting. Here's the vada. Oh, here you're fasting. Here's your ice cream. This kind of rubbish doesn't work. What is your goal? What are you trying to do? And what are you doing intermittent fasting for? This is very important. Is it for sugar control? Is it for weight control? Or is it for both? All this you have to decide. So what people do is after 2 months, once they've lost a few kilos, they add the milk to the coffee. See, today we don't have 200 ml or 150 ml glasses at home. Today we all have buy one, get one free mugs at home, which are 300 ml. And we don't tend to have half or quarter. It's always full, right? So the moment it's full, you add more sugar to it. So these are the problems. Before they will have no sugar for 2 months. After that, they'll come back to their old ways. Now this yo-yo diet is very, very dangerous. You have to follow something properly. And that is why the dietitian has to decide, can you do intermittent fasting? Are you capable using the psychologist, using the physiotherapist and the dietetic knowledge, and then take a call. not just on looking at the internet and you start doing it. I have so many patients who have got into gastric issues, who have gotten into so many problems, and then we have to correct them. And correcting takes longer. You might have never had a problem, but the moment you have this, it will take you 6 to 8 months. I have patients who had borderline rheumatoid arthritis and have slipped deeply into that after doing the wrong fasting. So please, whether you're advising or whether you're taking, always have the professional. I'm saying it again and again because my patients are doing these mistakes and then they come to us. It takes longer to cure. And in some people, they get irritated with us, but the mistakes that they did, they forget.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tina, that was too long an
No,
answer.
no. I think that was required, Dharani. I think you beautifully explained, the whole concept of intermittent fasting and how not to kind of be misled by
Correct.
different kinds of solutions. And of course, I agree with you. Going to a qualified person is the best. Niti, there's a question for you. Instead of sugar, what other alternatives can be used? Because I think you have sugar in a couple of your recipe. One recipe probably you have sugar.
I've given an option of jaggery and
Okay.
yeah.
So
Otherwise, you can
jaggery can be used. Does it taste the same?
yeah, it doesn't. You really don't get to know the taste.
Difference?
No. And
Okay.
honey is another substitute, maple syrup, but
Okay.
just a small dash, not like in quantity. And
Okay.
the yogurt have sugar at all. The mango is so sweet that you don't need sugar at all in it.
Okay.
Sugar, which I said, was probably in the raita, and
Probably, yeah.
so definitely you can do away with the sugar. You can just add a bit of jaggery powder, which is good enough.
Okay. So another question to you, Niti. Love the beetroot recipe. Uh, is it good for people with kidney problems? Or maybe Dharani should answer that.
Garni, that's the question.
See, if they are plain kidney patients, we have to look at the potassium levels. Then it's not a great idea. But if they're diabetic, then beetroot is not a great idea. So that is why we have to look at the patient and then decide. Because as I said, 9 out of 10, actually 99 out of 100 patients get kidney disease only because of diabetes. So we have to be careful. And for diabetes in a mixed vegetable, we can give little beetroot, but we cannot give beetroot like the way it is. But for kids, it's an awesome thing. The roti she showed is amazing for kids because the color attracts them and the healthy juice. If you're not diabetic, you don't have kidney disease, it's a great thing. Yeah.
All right. So again, another question to you, Dharani. Natural salt. Sendavar.
Saindavana.
Sorry, what's that? How do you pronounce that? Senda.
Saindavana.
Okay. Over normal salt. What do you recommend?
Yeah. See, if you have the real Sandavanam, please go for it. But suddenly, wherever you turn, there's pink salt. There's pink rock salt,
Yeah.
there's pink powder salt. I have a big doubt here. Is it really that? Now, more than that, after traveling to South America, I got a very big doubt. Because for me, till then, salt was only the salt that I saw in the sea because I stay in Chennai. And I see the salt pans as I go along to Mahabalipuram and Pondicherry and so on. Right? But and Gujarat also. But suddenly I realized that rock salt is actually from the rocks of the mountain. It is not from the sea. This is as a dietitian was such a hit to me first, right? So suddenly, if I'm taking so much of rock salt from the mountains, is it available? What is going to happen to it? These are very big questions. But if you have access to Saindavannam, because of Ayurvedic influence in my family, they say that that is the best. There's no two ways about it. Instead of NaCl in the form as Saindavannam, but it has so many other good things and it is not processed. So it's amazing.
Okay, great. The next question I'm actually going to ask both of you. Niti, do you use flax seeds in your cooking? If yes, where? Where do you use it? What
Yes.
dish?
I make cookies, and
Okay.
yeah, instead of egg, I use flaxseed powder. That is a
Mm-hmm.
substitute for egg.
Mm-hmm.
So you just take 2 teaspoons of flaxseed powder and mix it maybe a teaspoon of water, and you
Mm-hmm.
allow it to stand for a couple of minutes. And once I add that to my cookie dough, because I do all eggless baking. Once I add that to the cookie dough, it gives it gives it the texture and the quality what an egg would do for a cookie to bake. So
Okay,
it's
maybe we will have another session on your cookies and stuff like that.
But
That's
face
one
to face so that we can taste.
way.
I
So, okay, so Dharani, the same question to you. Adding foods like flax seeds and green tea to a diet, does it make it nourishing or is normal diet sufficient?
See, flax seeds have a very big role to play in diabetes, right? It does help in sugar control because of the high fiber it has and good nutrients, phytonutrients also. And today, in reversal of diabetes, they use seed flours, that is sunflower seed, watermelon seeds, and all these seeds with flaxseed because it adds that crunch also. And puffed flaxseed is also available as a very good snack. So it depends. For what you need, yeah, flaxseed is not wrong. You can use it, it's not expensive, and it can be had. There's no problem.
Okay, there's again, about the plateau, breaking the plateau, there's a question. What would be a better idea, giving a whey protein supplement to break a plateau for weight loss or to try a different diet pattern like a zigzag or intermittent fasting?
It depends on the patient. Okay. Supplement whey protein, the scoop that they provide gives 28 grams of protein, right? When most people are eating only 30 grams in a day. So you have to be very careful how much you give, what you give, and how you give. Okay. And today, even doctors, some of them are saying the whey protein, because it's so easily available, it's expensive, but so easily available that is it really whey protein? Is the question mark. Okay. I'm not saying that everything is wrong. So you have to be careful. Okay. Because you're thinking and calculating the protein, which actually may not be there. But for plateauing, various things works. One is giving very innovative diet. So I think Neeti is going to be on my panel too very soon because she is somebody who knows home science. She studied home science and she's wonderful cook, right? So these kind of people we need to put together. Like I have my physiotherapist, I have my psychologist. Now Neeti is going to be on my team. Thank you, Sheila, for introducing Neeti because it's amazing. Because how much I can think about food and creativity is
Yeah,
only that much.
yeah,
Whereas Neeti is doing it every day,
yeah.
right? So, and she has, I mean, that's her creativity and art, right? So work with people like this and find out for a person, send that diet to Neeti, and she would give you, quick changes, like, adding the crunchy groundnut to that recipe was just a brilliant idea. And if you add flaxseed there, again, it's fantastic, right? So plateauing is only because the person is not even telling you the full truth sometimes. You need to dig into the patient to find out are they doing these cheats. Like I had that slide. I'm sorry I couldn't actually show you the slides for some reason. Technology always, there are some glitches. So there is a slide to show that these people need to tell the truth. If they don't tell the truth, how are you assessing what they are eating? So, plateauing is actually a lot of issues. It's not just one problem. It is a lot of issues. Are they following the diet? For that, you should have techniques of art. That is why I developed that app where I'll catch my patients. Why you've not put it? But today it's too common. Nobody wants to follow. So, like that, newer techniques you have to do. Like I get my assistants to call them offhand, right? So then if you catch them, if you say, okay, Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, I'm going to talk to you, they have it all ready, right? Whether it's the right one or whether it's the fibbed one, right? But suddenly you call them, they can't cheat, right? At least partly you can catch them. So these are the kind of things. How many days you eat out? Dietitians think one meal a week. At least I think like that. Today they eat at home one meal a week. So what happens? These are the problems. So we need to tackle. So plateauing is a word, but I think there has so many facets to it and it can be broken if the patient wants to work with you properly.
Wonderful. Quick tips for dieting during fasts of holy month of Ramzan. I'm sorry, during Ramzan.
Yeah. See, this is a big question. I'll go on and on. So I'll try to make it as short as possible.
Yeah.
How much time do you give me, Sheila?
We have
3
plenty
minutes?
of other questions coming, so
2 minutes?
briefly, if you can tell me about the Ramadan?
Okay.
the
So
festival.
basically, I will change this to feasting and fasting. Fasting is a time of feasting for everybody, whichever religion you take, whether it's Ramadan, Lent, or Navratri, it's the same. Okay? So people think if they eat a lot of shira, a lot of fried stuff, it doesn't have salt, it's fasting. It's not fasting, it's feasting. In fact, we work with our diabetics because they take their medicine in the morning, but they're feasting at dinner. Right? So this is an issue. So we have to work with them to tell them to do the right things. Second, it's not 40 days fasting. If you really work with your friends who are following Ramadan, it continues for 60 to 70 days before and after, even after the Ramzan is over. Because it's a time of socializing, it's a time of so many things, and it's a potluck with the best pot in every house. Right? They may start with a very simple thing, but it's full of fried stuff, it's full of dessert. And that's what I'm saying, whether it's Lent or whether it is Navratri or whether it's Ramzan, it's the same story. So please, fasting means fast, don't feast. That's my message.
Okay, that was quick and short and sweet. Dharani ma'am, any books we can read up or recommend to family members? I think this is related to nutrition or healthy eating.
Okay, there are tons of books. If there's a particular, particular one you want, we can always say Indian Dietetic Association is giving guidelines. You can read that if you're a dietitian and tell it to your family members. You can write your own little book from IDA guidelines for your members because we have normal nutrition and we also have because a lot of family people may have diabetes, may have other issues. So you can learn if I don't know whether the person is a dietitian. If she is or he is, they can take the clue because that's a fantastic guide that all of us dietitians in India have worked with.
Okay. Okay, there's a question to Niti, but I think her connectivity is a bit low. Oh yeah, you're back. Niti, there's a question for you. What's your take on artificial sweeteners used for desserts? Do you first of all use artificial sweeteners for desserts?
No, no.
So, what is your opinion on people using it?
I really don't believe in artificial sweeteners because after all it's chemical. I would say rather you have half a teaspoon of jaggery and
Yeah.
with your cravings rather than going for these artificial sweeteners. But your take on
Okay.
Me? Yeah. See, basically, whatever food you eat has sweet in it, whether it's milk, whether anything with carbs. So we have forgotten to eat like that. That is the problem. If you take the tea tasters, they drink tea without sugar. You take the coffee tasters, they drink coffee without sugar. Only then they'll get the real flavor, right? So sugar is something that's very recent and it's going up in the number of teaspoons we're having. The better we reduce, and hidden sugars coming from any packet that you buy, open and eat. So it's better to reduce and learn to have without sugar. You will hate to have with sugar. So that's an amazing thing.
Okay. Next question to you, Dharani, again. How can we recommend how can we recommend water intake level for school going children? Probably the question is, what is the water intake recommended for school going children? That's how I understand it.
Okay. It depends on the school. Today there are AC schools. Then they need less water. If they are in above ninth grade, they don't let them out at all. Every PT class becomes a maths class or a science class. That means they're not exercising at all, right? So it depends. Whereas if you're in a school which is totally ventilated, and in this summer, it will definitely be June to August, and if it's like Chennai, you're really going to sweat. Any amount of water you drink is not going to be enough because kids are going to run as much as they want. So 2 to 3 liters, how much of a body that asks water, let them take it. There's no problem. But Chennai has water difficulty. So the adults don't drink too much water is my question.
Okay, here's a compliment to both of you. Wonderful explanations and very good nutritive recipes. Thank you so much. So this is a compliment to both of you. Moving on. What will be the dietary suggestion for obese people having acidity and gallbladder removal surgery? Probably Yeah, underwent. Serving chilled milk. Is it a good option for people with acidity problem?
Absolutely no problem at all. First, they should not skip meals. And a lot of people tend to skip breakfast or, eat only after 10 a.m. That should not be done. And they should not have a heavy meal at dinner because that also creates acidity. They should eat early. The dinner should be a light meal. And what is the other thing you said, Sheila?
Gallbladder surgery and
Ah,
acidity.
today, gallbladder surgery is not a
Okay.
problem at all.
Yeah.
When we studied in the textbooks, it was a big problem. Today, patients within a week are back to normal because of the enzymes being provided. It's not a problem at all. And gallbladder is only a storage place, isn't it? It's not creating the enzymes for fat digestion, which is being provided to them. So it's not a big problem at all.
Great. Can tuna, limestone, be used as a source of calcium?
Absolutely. I keep telling that again and again. Because tobacco was used with betel leaves, it was thrown out. Whereas betel leaf is part of our system. Even today, I have a betel leaf plant. Even 3 times a week, I take betel leaf with tuna and a little bit of betel nut. It's not wrong at all. It's very good. And it's one of the best sources of calcium. In fact, in pregnancy, my grandmother used to give 20 betel leaves twice a day because it created digestion, it created calcium, everything that one needs. Of course, you don't need so much on a daily basis now, but I'm saying for normal people, thrice a week, 2 to 4 leaves is perfectly all right with little bit tuna. Again, too much tuna cannot be used because it's very acidic. You have to use very little. And if you stay in a coastal place like I do, you can get pure tuna outside without the pink color in it because that is the true tuna. Whereas the pink one is processed. Okay.
Okay, that's an eye-opening statement. Neeti, the question to you next is: I have a sweet tooth, Neeti ma'am. I love eating cakes and pastries. Please suggest healthier option. Okay, so that's another point, Neeti. Maybe we should do a session on desserts one day. But but for now, if you can answer, some healthier options that you would probably provide.
Yeah, so I do healthy cookies, which is of oats and wheat flour. Yes, the butter does go in there, which is not so healthy, and I use jaggery for the sweetener. So if you
Okay.
consider that a little on the healthier side, and brown sugar. In some recipes, I do use brown sugar, so it's a choice. But no white sugar, no maida, and but butter is definitely used, so it's not all that healthy, but better than the other ones. Yes, definitely yes. And
Okay.
there are a lot of healthy recipes in desserts. Like you can make so many things with jaggery. You can make kheer with jaggery. I make kulfis with jaggery. I've got a lot
Oh,
of kulfis. Yes, and I use
okay.
fresh fruit in making kulfis, which you don't need any sweet. Like we have
Okay.
so groundnut peanuts, roasted peanuts with jaggery, which I make at home, is also something good which can give rest to your cravings, satiate them.
Okay. Well, I think we have come to the end of the session. It's 5:33. 5:30 was the cutoff time. So I'm going to end here. But before I end, I would like to just make give one more compliment that a person has written here. Dharani answers were perfect, and Neeti made the session very artistic. So I think that's a great compliment to both of you. Thank you so much for being on the session and sharing your knowledge and making it very very interesting and interactive. And also many thanks to all the participants, all the viewers who tuned in from various cities across India as well as parts of other parts of the globe. Thank you so much for being here. Nutrition Nectar will be back again with some more sessions in future. And meanwhile, we are sharing the contact details of the two experts here. Um,
It's not working,
if
Sheila.
you, that's okay. I'll give you the email address of Dharani. If you would like to write it down, it is dhar.krish at gmail.com. I'm going to put it in the chat box as well. And Niti's email address is nitijaipura@gmail.com, and she can be reached on her mobile number 98455 I'm going to paste this on the chat box, so if anybody is interested, do feel free to get in touch with either of them or both of them, depending on what you need. Thank you very, very much, and take care, stay safe, and bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Sheila, for the session, and lovely doing it with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to paste the email address quickly before we say bye-bye in the chat box. Okay, let me see if that'll go. No, that doesn't go. I'm just going to write it down then. Okay, that is Dharani's email address. That is Niti's email address. Please look at your chat boxes and you will get it. And trying to get Niti's number. Okay.
You can tell your number to her.
Yes, typed it in
She
already.
got it. Yeah.
Yes. So if please ensure that you write down these contact details and you can get in touch with them. Thank you once again, all of you, and bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.